When Hank Rafferty and Charlie Reed, two LAPD officers, look into a warehouse burglary, they find a group of robbers, one of whom murders Charlie before they can flee. Before the murderer and the rest of his gang fled, Hank had observed the tattoo on his arm. Earl Montgomery's long-held goal of becoming a police officer is dashed when he fails the police school due to an unintentional explosion. Earl is conceited and racist. He believes he is superior to everyone, so when the instructor challenges him, he takes the drill too seriously and cuffs the teacher by jumping from his automobile into gasoline barrels, which burst. Hank meets Earl when he sees him attempting to enter his car after locking his keys inside after receiving a warning from Detective Frank McDuff for interfering with the Charlie's death investigation. McDuff wanted Hank to stay away because the warehouse was storing $800,000 of computer chips, which are now gone, making this a national security matter. When Hank confronts Earl uses racial slurs and abuses him so much that he ends up getting arrested. Earl becomes anxious when he encounters a bumblebee, to which he is allergic. Hank chases the bee away in an attempt to save Earl. When Hank is genuinely trying to shoo the bee away by smacking it with his baton, it looks from a distance as though he is abusing Earl. The entire incident is captured on camera. In light of the damning evidence and the vindictive Earl's fabrications regarding the alleged brutalization, Hank is fired from the police department and faces charges of aggravated assault against Earl. He has been given a 6-month prison sentence. Hank often attacks a prison guard and spends the whole 6 months in solitary confinement since he is despised by all the other black inmates, even before he enters the facility. Hank obtains a job as a security guard after being freed and carries out more investigation into Charlie's killing. Hank investigates after noticing an alarm being triggered at a soda warehouse. While on duty in the warehouse, Earl, who works for the same security company, is not being very productive. After Hank stops the robbery, there is a gunfight with the thugs that results in another encounter between Hank and Earl. After pursuing the robbers, the two are stopped by the police for speeding. A cell phone had been dropped by one of the criminals. When Hank picks up the phone, the van rental firm answers. They assume the folks who rented the van are driving a semi-trailer all the way to Mexico. Hank and Earl discover the robbers' van inside the truck, which they enter after discovering it at a rest area. When Earl tries to hot-wire the vehicle, he unintentionally sets off the alarm, which warns the robbers. Hank and Earl drive the van out of the truck and flee following a brief gunfight. What appear to be regular beer kegs are found inside the van. Hank takes them to a foundry for inspection, where they discover that the kegs are actually constructed of an atomic aircraft alloy valued at millions of dollars. Hank drives the van to his ex-girlfriend Denise's residence with the kegs. Following Hank's incarceration, they broke up, and Hank begs Earl to be honest with Denise about the assault. Earl makes a commitment, but he breaks it and begins making advances on Denise, again acting as the victim, as soon as he notices that she is a beautiful black lady. They fight again as a result of this, and Denise throws them both out after a heated argument. Hank punches Earl in the face, before storming off. Later, after finding that they are suspects in the previous firefight, which occurred on the highway inside the trailer truck, but the police were unaware of this at the time, the two are trapped by them. After they make their getaway, Hank concludes that the robbers must have an insider in the police force. The two track down the owner of the vehicle that evening and spy out the location, but Earl enters the building by himself and is met by the robbers. Arriving just as Earl is being shot in the leg, Hank identifies one of the robbers, Nash, as Charlie's killer before making his getaway, based on the tattoo on his wrist. A bee comes into the home as Hank takes Earl to Denise to receive his wound, which turns out to be just a graze, and Earl flees, revealing to Denise that Hank's account of the assault on Earl was, in fact, genuine and that Earl is the racist. She gives Earl a slap for lying, then makes up with Hank. They follow Nash to a meeting at a yacht club after noticing the address on his pager and observe him conversing with McDuff, who turns out to be Nash's inside guy. Lieutenant Washington, Hank's previous supervisor, is informed of everything that Earl and Hank know. Washington informs them that an aerospace company lost $7 million worth of space metal to theft a year earlier. When the FBI received a tip, the boys melted it into beer kegs to sneak it out. However, the insider took action before the FBI could arrive to secure the items. They pose as approaching McDuff and make a $1 million offer to get the beer kegs back. But Nash finds out about their scheme. His men overheard Washington talking to Hank and Earl, and kidnaps Washington first. The following day, Earl and Hank see McDuff, Nash, and their men close to the coast. They save Washington and unintentionally trigger a gunfight, but the three of them are able to eliminate or capture the majority of Nash's group, including McDuff. Despite being shot, Hank manages to escape and ends Nash's life by launching him into the sea and avenging Charlie's death by lowering a nearby crane's lifting hook onto an unstable rock that Nash is standing on. Following another 6 months, Hank and Earl are appointed partners in the LAPD after Hank's heroic acts earn him a promotion and reinstatement. The two run upon a man who appears to be trapped out of his automobile in a scenario that is identical to how they first met. After assisting the man, Earl discovers that he is actually a robber. By firing at the car, he manages to halt the robber, but the car explodes shortly after.